Hi, I'm Bo Stevens, Director of Sales here at iKonBoats. We're going to take you on a plant tour today and show you all about iKon, what we do, the engineering and technology that sets us apart from the industry. So come on, let's check it out. Hey, so here we are with Tommy Connor at iKonBoats. He's our program manager. Tommy, here we are in lamination. What's going on here?
All right, hey guys. So this is our lamination process. In the beginning, what you have is a mold. As you can see here, the guys are taping the mold up. This happens to be a deck. So what they'll do is when you see the iKon bolt, see Julio over here, he is actually taping up the bolt now. So what happens is they tape it, it gets the process of gel coat, the tape comes off, and then you have the bolt that'll be sprayed later. Then we'll show you the gel coat process. So here we actually have the gel coaters pulling the stripe on the hull. As you can see, the bottom has been sprayed, the bolt has been sprayed. We got Dave and Daniel in here, they're pulling the stripes. The rest of that will come off. At that point, the process of spraying the mold is done and it goes over to lamination. All right guys, so now the gel coat is done. We're in a lamination process. As you can see, the team is putting a skin coat on the deck, which is 60 to 90 mils of chop. They will air roll this thing, make sure there's no air in it. That way, that's the first layer, and we get a good shine on our part. After the skinning process, we do what we call bulk, which we add strength and structure to the part. So in that, we have screw retention type materials like Trevera that's added. This particular part is a liner. It's very important that we add structure to the boat. So this part is actually put on and put into the hull. But as you can see, more and more material is added to give the strength and the bulk it's needed.
Okay, Tommy, so here's our console. Tell me about that.
So this is our console. This is where they're built. As you know, Bo, our consoles are a little more complicated than most. They are a one-piece console. Yep. And so one piece meaning they don't have shrouds, they don't have a bunch of fasteners. We put these things together as one piece. They are solid, structurally sound.
That's a great feature on our boat for the longevity of it and just the overall performance of that. So here we have a hull and they're bagging this. Tell me about that process.
So this process is called Infusion. It's a more controlled process than what you see over in open mold. Obviously the hull and the hull bottom is very important to the performance of the boat. So we like to control that. Not only that, we like to control the weight. So the infusion process infuses the resin, puts a very certain amount in there that's always consistent. It pulls all the air out of the product, and every boat is the same weight, very consistent every time.
So Tommy, we finished the infusion process, so now we have the hull here still in the mold. Tell me what we're looking at.
After the resin is inserted, the bag is pulled off, and all the materials are exposed, this is where the liner gets set. But as you can see, we have heavy core materials in the bottom, stiffeners up the keel. We have Trevera for screw retention in our gunnels, and then ultimately we have one of the strongest transoms in the industry. This is 2-inch CUSA, which obviously is infused with the transom with a heavy core off each side, which makes the transom almost inbreakable.
Yeah, similar to what we do on the HCB big boats, that's what we've incorporated into the bass boats, correct?
100%. All engineering came from HCB, is incorporated in this hull.
Here's the finished liner going inside the hull, correct?
Correct. What they're doing here is they will set the liner down in the hull. It'll get methaculate, which will glue it all into the hull, tie the hull to the liner together. Basically makes a one piece out of two parts.
Correct. So this is what really sets us apart from other bass boats, right, Tommy?
Correct.
As far as supporting the hull, giving us strength, and then that becomes the compartments. When I open up a lid, it's clean fiberglass in there.
Correct.
Okay, so here we are in hull cut. Explain what we do here.
So as you can see, this is a deck. It's being pulled out of lamination. It comes to hole cut. The process at hole cut is we've got a jig that we use. This is what we drill all the holes with when assembly puts their parts on. So each jig is put on, it's got its own holes in it that'll be drilled by the associates. That way when it goes to assembly, all holes are drilled and all they do is put on parts.
So they're all targeted so we get the holes in the right spot so everything is attached appropriately.
Very precise every time.
Fantastic. And you know, Tommy, one of the things that's a big deal to me as a fisherman, and a lot of our iKon owners love our coolers. So the cooler in the boat, it's not just a fiberglass container. We truly insulate that, keeps ice for days and keeps my drinks cold. I love that. Hey, so we're back here in assembly with Andrew Clemens, Director of Engineering at iKonBoats. So Andrew, I love this part of the plant where it becomes a real bass boat. Talk about the process here.
So the process for our boats start, they come in from lamination after we've done all the trimming of the flanges, done all the cutouts for all the components we're going to install. And they come into these two stations here. We're going to start with the first one, that's our pre-cap hull station. So this is everything we install on the hull before we assemble the top and bottom of the boat together. Mainly this consists of, we'll run in the front some of the electronics. So if we're rigging transducers, in this particular case you got a junction box for Hummingbird that gets installed. We install the fuel tanks, and actually right before we install them over here, we do a pressure test before we put them in the boat. And then back here, we'll do the bilge pumps, the Livewell fill pumps, batteries, battery chargers, battery trays, fish IV, power pole pumps. A lot of that stuff gets installed here. When the boat is nice and open, you have great access to being able to do that, so it makes it easy on our installers.
So the gas tank, obviously that's a unique shaped gas tank. Talk about that a little bit.
That was something we spent a lot of time trying to maximize the capacity, but also minimize the impact on storage or reducing the cockpit size at all. So it's a very complex shape, but it does the job. It gets actually about 53 gallons. We advertise 50, but it gets about 53 gallons of fuel in it. And it doesn't change center of gravity of the boat as you burn the fuel down. That was another big thing. So right above this spot is where the two passengers sit. So your biggest concentration of weight between fuel and passengers and Livewell is all right in this area to have a minimum impact on center of gravity as you're running.
Great, and these red caps here on the liner, we just came from lamination, so that's where we have injected foam. So the two layers that we saw in lamination are fully filled with foam to support the hull, correct?
Right, you would have seen us bonding the liner with a methacrylate to the hull to make it structurally sound, and once it's bonded and sealed all the way around, then we inject that foam. So that's all the buoyancy that's needed. The flotation foam is what we call it. But all of our boats meet level flotation requirements, which is actually above what's required for boats over 20 feet. But we like that added protection and safety to give to our customers.
Okay, so Andrew, at iKon, we're extremely proud of the engineering and technology that goes into our L2 Livewell system to protect the resource. Those of us that fish, we work really hard to try to catch that bass, and once we get them, we're doing the best we can to take care of them. Talk about this Livewell, please.
So this station actually is one of our sub-assembly stations where you're looking at a VLX Livewell and an LX Livewell. You can see they're very similar. There's just some minor differences between the two. But at this station, we'll take it, fully assemble, install all the pumps, hoses, lights, the sensors that we have, float switch, and then that tank below it is what we use. We'll set this up and fully test it to make sure that everything is sealed up and ready to go before we bring it over to our pre-cap deck and do an install. Another portion of work that happens here is sub-assembly for dashes. So you'll see this is what that looks like when it comes out of lamination, and then this is what they'll look like when we get ready to send them over to the boat to get installed.
Here we are in the area where we assemble our seats, which on the Victory Series and the Legend Series, we get tons of comments. The Legend Series seat is unmatched, fiberglass back, 6-spring base, cool touch material. I mean, those seats are a game changer for me when I'm out there, I know that. So talk about our seats, Andrew.
Well, in this stage, what we're actually doing is we get the vinyl cut at HCB. They do all of our upholstery. We design the upholstery and then they go ahead and cut and sew that and do all the quilting there. And then it comes to this station where we actually install the vinyl on the substrates and the foam. Once those are done, that's what you're looking at over here. These are seats that are ready to get installed, and they would get installed at that final finish stage that we talked about earlier, where we put all the last components on the boat. Because actually when we go lake test, we don't even use the customer seats. We have our own test seats on there, just on the off chance something happens while they're out there on the water. That way the customer gets fresh seats. They're put on right before we ship the boat.
So now, Andrew, we're at pre-cap deck. So tell me what's happening here.
So just like in the pre-cap hull station, this station is where we put a lot of the components onto the deck. That's deck hardware, some of the compartment lighting. We install the consoles that are actually built in a sub-assembly and brought over and installed, but then there's a lot of electrical connections we have to make. We also install the live wells here. That's another part that's made in sub-assembly, but brought over, fully assembled and installed. They're hanging the wire harness right now. And obviously this is the easiest way to do that from an access standpoint rather than after the boat is capped. So there's a group of things that we call critical to cap. Those are all the components that get installed between pre-cap hull and deck stations before it gets assembled at the capping station.
So now that we're finished there, what's the next step? What's going on here?
So this is our capping station. Right now you're looking at the underside of the deck after we've installed all the components. And then over here, everything's been installed from the pre-cap standpoint, and we're going through and we're setting up all of our bonding points that we have throughout the boat. One of the things I just wanted to also point out, at each of these stations, we have quality inspections that happen. So every operator has a list of things they have to check off saying that they've completed these tasks. And then they come around here, they do an inspection, and we actually dry cap the boat before we bring it together, just to make sure it's gonna happen how we want it to. And then one last walk through underneath the boat, making sure everything is completed that has to be done before we cap it. So they're going around doing the perimeter bond line, which helps create a seal around the boat, and also just an additional connection before we screw the boat together. And then we move forward to this station, which is our final assembly station. This is where a lot of the electronics get installed, whether it's graphs, trolling motors would get installed. All the lids get mounted, and they really get the boat ready to go to the lake after this stage. So after a boat comes back from lake testing, this station we call final finish, and this is where we'll install some of those components we don't want to damage during the build process, like all the padding that goes around the deck of the cockpit. You'll see little things like this, which are just minor cosmetic issues that we identify. Those get all cleaned up and fixed in this area. They'll install the spare tire cover, and all the warning labels, the badging, all that gets installed at this stage. It's kind of the last bits of all the components that need to get installed, get handled here. And then the boat moves on to the next stage over here. And so this is our quality station. This is the final quality audit that happens. They do another electrical test to make sure everything's functioning. All the repairs or anything throughout the process have been addressed, cosmetic issues, or if for some reason there was some other component not working, that's all been corrected, and that gets audited here to make sure all that work was done.
So okay, we're winding down in the process. We're here, we have one shrink wrap ready to go to an excited iKon owner. So talk about that, Andrew.
So after that quality audit at our pre-ship station, this is where we look at it with another set of fresh eyes to say, okay, is it ready for the customer to unveil, take this cover off? So that's where everything would get loaded onto the boat. That includes things like the boxes, the paperwork, the manuals, anything that's loose, it gets all laid out. We photograph the entire boat to document the state that it's in before it leaves here. That gives us a good reference. And also if the customer needed anything or a dealer needed anything, we can verify through photos that everything was done here. And then after that inspection gets done, it's another quality inspection we call pre-ship. Then they'll go ahead and shrink wrap this boat and get ready for transport.
Hey, so that concludes our plant tour today here at iKon. You got to meet Tommy and Andrew and see a lot of behind the scenes work that goes on here to make this fantastic boat. For more information, please check out our DNA videos at iKonBoats.com or our YouTube channel.